Hi folks, today what we're working on is going to be thumb safeties, the do's and don'ts, and what you need. Hi folks, Bob from Fusion. Today we're going through another one of our basic parts series. This time we're going to go over thumb safeties. Thumb safeties are an accessory part. You get a lot of people that want to change them out. There's all different styles of thumb safeties, from the standard mil spec style, Ambi style safeties, and there's a couple of different ones of these I'll explain coming up, to extended paddle style thumb safeties, and some have a standard combat lever to get your thumb on. Other ones have the wider paddle. So it just depends on what your preference is. This should be a pretty quick video. There isn't a ton to go into on safeties, but it is some good information for everybody to know. Again, a thumb safety. A thumb safety is not a part generally that's going to drop in from the sky and fit into your 1911. Okay, the thumb safeties, the lugs on the back of the thumb safety here, they're meant for fitting. Okay. And we'll show you those fitting points, and we'll show you some things to look for as you do your fitting. If you don't know how to fit, or don't understand the theory behind fitting a thumb safety, consult a gunsmith, or send your gun into Fusion, and we'll help you fit it, that type of thing. So, what are your choices? Well, again, you got to look at what are your choices in a thumb safety for what's your application. The most popular on thumb safeties are going to be the extended combat style paddle, which will be the thinner paddle for your thumb. These we sell the most of. The GI style, a lot of the retro builders, some people just like this GI style thumb safety, so that's a replacement part for them. But most people will take these and want to upgrade to a combat paddle or the wider paddle on an extended thumb safety. The Ambi thumb safeties, there's a whole group of different Ambi thumb safeties, and again, they have a tongue and groove. Okay, a male and a female part that will snap together. Some will need a new sear pin. Okay, the new sear pin will actually have a groove machined in it that rides on the back of the soft side or the weak side of the thumb safety to hold it in place. These work fine. The other style will be so this is a competition style with the high paddles. Okay, and generally what you'll do with these is you'll see this one doesn't have a pin style. Most of the ones that we sell do not have the sear retaining pin. Most of them, the grip, you get an Ambi cut grip, and it will just hold this piece in place here. And generally that's really all you need. I've never seen any true issues with them if they're fitted properly. So both ways work effectively. Now, we'll go into what do you got to do when you're going to choose a thumb safety. Again, it's more personal preference. The extended are the most popular, and generally the extended with the thinner combat paddle. Why? You can holster them easier. They don't catch on your clothing, things of that nature, and it does give you a sufficient area to get your thumb on to release the thumb safety, to activate the thumb safety either way. So the other issue would be the wide paddle, okay, and then in stainless or carbon, again, personal preference or whatever type of build you're doing. The wider paddles, people like these also for competition mostly. I do have some carry guys that do love the wide paddles. It just fits their hands. They have small hands. They have a hard time getting their fingers on some of the controls. So a lot of guys will want to set the gun up with the wider paddle. The actual extended mag release would be another thing with short fingers. Also going with a short trigger. A lot of guys want to set their gun up that way, maybe even thin grips, because that will help that. But again, with the thumb safeties, the wide paddles are generally more user friendly for the competition shooter. But again, it's your own personal preference, how you carry, how you like it, and so we do sell quite a few of these for all different applications. Now, when you're looking at fitting on a thumb safety, what do you got to do? Well, you'll see there's going to be one fitting lug in the front on the bottom side of this area here. And if you take the original one out of your 1911, you'll generally see where it's been filed or worked just on that area right there. And that's going to come up and engage your sear. So as that comes up and engages the back of the sear, it will not allow the gun to fire. As you push it down, it allows clearance so that the trigger can come back, disconnector and sear can come back and fire the pistol. So again, it's just a quick couple swipes with a file, generally right in this area. And a couple other things to look for. Generally, when I'm fitting a new thumb safety, what do? I usually strip the frame down totally. And then take the thumb safety, insert the thumb safety, and make sure it moves freely to begin with, okay? Make sure that you're not having any issues with this area up here hitting the notch in your slide. Make sure you're not having any issues with this detent area, the corner of the detent area hitting the plunger tube, something we see once in a while. And then just make sure that the clover leaf that's machined in the frame, that the actual lug itself on the back of the thumb safety fits in and will move up and down freely. Sometimes I'll see people fitting a thumb safety and fitting a thumb safety and fitting a thumb safety because they never checked for interferences inside the frame. And sometimes maybe your frame is a little thicker on that side, so you may have to file this notch here just a slight bit to make it move freely. So they're feeling friction, they're feeling that things aren't moving properly with the thumb safety, and they keep filing off the fitting lug, which really their interference is coming from the frame or the slot here. So again, look at those things. So start out with an entirely stripped frame, get in there, make sure the thumb safety fits, make sure it works okay. Next thing, what I normally do, I'll take the beaver tail, okay, or the grip safety, put that in the frame, insert the thumb safety again, and make sure that everything actuates and works fine with the grip safety in there. Why? Sometimes you'll see where the holes don't line up on a grip safety on some models or something. Then when you put a new pin in, this pin diameter may be 0.02 bigger than the old one you had in there. Now all of a sudden it's binding a little bit and you're feeling that binding, but the binding really isn't from the fitting lug, it's from the actual grip safety itself. What do you do when you have that issue? Well, you can either polish the pin down a little bit, or you can just ream the hole slightly in the grip safety, and bring that, just make it a little bit bigger, so you have a little bit more play in the grip safety, so it moves freely, and that the thumb safety moves freely. So again, that's two things to look for before you start out working on your fitting lug. So now, when you're done with your fitting lug, what are you going to do next? Well, now you're going to put all the parts back into the gun, and what we'll do is we'll go out into the shop here, and I'll show you in a few minutes. We'll add this into the video of how I actually hold the pistol as I'm testing it, and it'll give you a good reference point of how to do it and how to look at and what things to look at. But generally, it's just take a file and file this a fitting lug right here until it goes in and just starts to actuate on the sear, the back of the sear, and you'll feel it. So when you put it in there, if you can't get it to even move, then generally you got to take a few more swipes of the file off that, a couple more thousands, try it again. And you can generally, once you start getting it to work, you can generally look at it and see the rub mark where it's hitting hard. But you'll get it, and sometimes I even take a little bit of a saw-faced hammer, a small one, and as I put it in there and I know I'm getting close to almost being done with it, I'll just tap on the paddle up and down, and you'll see it'll work its way in a little bit with a little oil on it. And then I take a stone and just stone it finally when you're finished. One other thing to look at when you're fitting is sometimes you get your gun all back together, you'll be looking at your thumb safety and say, yep, I'm proud of that, feels good, I get a nice click to it, all's good there. All of a sudden you feel a click in your hammer or your trigger when you're trying to fire, you feel a click. What is that click? Generally, what it is the back of the hammer riding this secondary, well, if you want to call it secondary or third area here of the back fitting lug. You can grind a little clearance into this belly, and you can also, you'll see generally from that click, you'll see a little tiny wear mark on that point on the thumb safety. And again, it's real simple. Take a file, a couple little swipes, you'll find out, oh, the click goes away. So it's just a little bit of interference with all the different parts and tolerances within the gun, and just something to look for. What else do I look for when I'm doing thumb safeties? Okay, elementary is the grip. You know, after you fit your thumb safety, I've seen a lot of people get into trouble where the thumb safety is still hitting the grip. So they'll get everything fit, and then they'll have everything actuated. Then they'll screw their grips back on, and then they'll go out, and the top of the thumb safety isn't going all the way down. It's actually still sticking up somewhat, and it'll be riding the bottom of the slide, and then they'll be having function problems and all types of other issues going on. And it's because of the grip. Okay, so look at that, and I know it sounds elementary. And again, if you're having an Ambi thumb safety, look on both sides. So what do you do? What do you do if your paddle, the thumb paddle is rubbing on the grip? Just relieve the grip. I do it on a belt sander and then buff it in a little bit and put a little finishing oil back on it. And you just grind a little bit off the top, or you can file it until you have clearance between the paddle and the grip. How do I check that? I generally take an index card. Okay, I'll take an index card, rip a little piece of index card off there, and I just rub it in between there, and I make sure I have a gap. The index card is going to be about 5/1000, 6/1000. So that's ample. And you rub it in there, and you got clearance, you're good to go. So you don't have interference with the grip itself. Some other things to look at, and this is again more personal preference and how picky you are on your builds. On my custom builds, I'll blend all this in the back here. Sometimes the thumb safety, after you install it, you'll see the wing on the back side here is hanging off into the grip area, which will sometimes end up, giving you a rub mark on your hand, or while you're firing. Okay, if the detent's not holding it in place good enough, you'll actually be actuating your thumb safety every once in a while because it's bumping that web of your hand right here on that area, and up you go. Every time you fire, the thumb safety's coming up a little bit. So again, something to look for. Some people, it never bothers them, and it's not an issue. But again, it's something to look for. If that's something that bothers you, or you're having an issue with that, then generally we just we blend everything in there and then refinish the part. Basically, is what we do. So that's about it. The Ambis themselves, the paddle style, the paddles themselves, generally I take it and I file a small chamfer on the male end over here when you insert it in the tongue and groove. And, you don't want to get this. You want to get this so you can basically just snap it in with your fingers. If you have to bang this in with a hammer, you'll see people will end up sometimes busting the tang on the female side over here, breaking one portion off or bending it. Also, one thing is when you do the Ambi and it's too tight, trying to disassemble is really difficult because it's very hard to get this side to come off. Again, what I do then, I usually slide an index card underneath, try to get a small, I have a small screwdriver ground on a wedge, which I put on the index card so I don't blemish the frame, and then I just tap it with a or small soft-faced hammer, ball peen on the back of the screwdriver, and it will generally loosen that up where it'll pop out and come out easily for you. So again, that's just some little tips to look for. Also, again, make sure before you go out and test fire anything that when you do an Ambi and you assemble it, make sure again that the beaver tail's working properly for you, the grip safety beaver tail's working properly for you, and the thumb safety's working properly for you. Why? Because again, when you put the other piece together, sometimes if there's a concentricity issue in your frame, the holes are misaligned slightly. It could be these parts. It could be the hole and the grip safety is a little off. It's not perpendicular to the frame slightly. Then all of a sudden you put the other part in, and then you'll end up getting some heavy rubbing, and you'll feel that the grip safety is sticky now or something of that nature. So if that does happen, again, just relieve the pin generally. I usually will just take it, and you take a little bit of sandpaper, go around the pin slightly, and it usually only takes a few swipes to get it back in and looking good. Basically, and then I can buff it a little bit if I want it smoother, and everything is up and going well for you. But again, look for those items that could be a binding issue, which could end up becoming a mechanical issue for you when you go to do test fire. So, okay, and then again, also check everything without the gun unloaded. Make sure the gun is not loaded, and make sure that you check everything. Make sure that the grip safety is working. You make sure your thumb safety is working properly. You make sure you're not getting hammer fall. All those items you want to check for before you go out and do your test fire and use live ammo. Okay, so what I'll do now is we'll jump out in the shop for a second. I'll just show you where I do the fitting lugs, and we'll go from there. Have a great day.